Hey there, it's Nathalie. Welcome to my channel. I'm in the sewing room today and I have made this pair of really kind of cool, funky blue jeans, Embellish blue jeans. They're sort of kind of mixed media, although they're not painted, all right? So the reason I say they're mixed media is because they have crochet, they have embroidery, they have bits of lace. This was from an old drape. I don't know how old it was, but it was really cool. Some vintage trims, whether they're vintage or not, I don't know because I picked them up at a garage sale. So they could be any sort of age. And so I've done a couple of things you're going to want to do is make sure that if you decide to do one like this and do the add-ons like on the pockets and stuff, you're going to want a pair of jeans that are not stretchy. You don't have to do the color that I've done. This has some really cool vintage, like a dress or scarf or something that was cross-stitched. Anyway, make sure that the jeans that you use are not stretched jeans because the stitching will not work well with that. Also, I'm so glad that you're here, and if you enjoy this video, be sure you subscribe and give me a little thumbs up, and hey, share me with your friends. All right, you ready to get started? I am in my garage, and it is 103 outside. There is no telling what the temperature is in this garage. I have this bin of fabric that a friend gave me, and this was just like right on top, so I really like that. It's I think it was a skirt, and I won't use the whole thing off, but I'll use a piece off of that. This is a kind of like a Victorian quilt. It's made out of some silks and some other stuff, and some of the silk is pretty tattered. I don't think I'll use that, but I really like some of this embroidery area, so I may use that. And let's see, that's kind of cool and retro looking. Oops, come back here. Not sure about that. Not that. That's like Bark's cloth or something. That might be a possibility. This is a embroidered rose. It's not hand embroidered, it's machine embroidered. I've got some hand embroidered stuff. I'll put that with that just in case. And let's see if there's anything else that I see in here. I like those. We'll set those to the side. Okay, I'm going to pause the camera and go down a level to the next tub. Looks like this tub looks like it's got some cool treasures in it. There are some vintage tablecloths. I will take those out and put those with my collection. Oh, look, what is that? Oh, the strawberries with the check. That's pretty cool, but not for this project. Maybe for a snappy bag. That's cool, but not for this project. Okay, don't get distracted. Don't get sidetracked. Some doilies. There's some more embroidery. Maybe not the look that I'm looking for. Let's see, some chenille. I like the lace on the border of that. This is kind of cool. Let's see, it says health, love, joy, and wealth. And it's cross stitch, like crewel thread cross stitch. It's not embroidery floss. It's kind of a fuzzy. I think I'll pick that one out. And it is too stinking hot out here to dig around very much. So this will get me started, and I might come back and dig in this a little bit more later, whenever like in the morning or something. I think I'm pretty happy with the placement of these pieces. And while I was at an estate sale this past weekend, I found some of this kind of retro orange and avocado green trim, and then a couple of these lace embellishments. And I cut these off of a little coral t-shirt. These little pieces, applique pieces, were down the sleeve of that. So there's a couple of those on here. So, and I have some pink rickrack. I think I'm going to put the pink rickrack on this edge of this. And then, so I'll photograph this so I can remember my placement. This is above the knee right here. I went to the thrift store today and got some. These are American Eagle Outfitters in my size, and they do not stretch. And so whenever I put this, when I stitch these pieces down, I won't have to worry about the stretch of the fabric. So I've already done just a couple of stitches in here. I think I have all of my placement done out. But what I'm going to do is take a piece of cardstock, because I'm not going to run my hand up inside of here and try to keep the stitches from gathering onto the back. And this doesn't fit under my sewing machine, so I'm going to do it by hand. Anyway, so I'm going to run this cardstock down to the knee area. And if it bends, that's okay too, but I just want to get it in there good. Oops, come here. There we go. All right. So now whenever I stitch through, I'm not going to get into the back side of the jean part. So let me show you this stitch. You can use embroidery floss. I'm just using crochet thread. And this is just a little X stitch. And I haven't put any sort of fusible web or anything underneath this. This is just plain, soft fabric. I want to take a little bit larger bite there. And I'm not sure if this is the way you turn a corner or not, but this is the way I'm going to turn the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and do just kind of a repeated stitch there. And then give me enough of a thing so you can tell it's kind of an X. Now I am catching the jeans and the fabric with this bottom stitch. And I'll just continue this all the way on around. I buried my knot underneath here. I'm just going to stitch around. Not a fancy stitch, just a little stitch. I'm going to do this section of fabric, maybe both of these. This is up towards the top by the pocket, so I can get to it with my sewing machine. So I'm going to just do like maybe 3 or 4 rough, messy stitches on here. Rows of stitches. Make sure I don't catch my pocket here. This section I stitched by machine, and I had to do it in 2 sections because of the pocket seam. So I've got a seam that's right here, then I came back and I did this little edge over here. And just so you know, this fabric is turned, I turned it wrong side out because I like that kind of faded look a little bit better. So this one is wrong side out. Now, this is going to be the next piece that's going to go on, and it'll go on like right here, just below this pocket. And on this patch, I tore the edges. I was going to sew it, but I decided I just wanted to go ahead and tear it. And I'm going to do a blanket stitch. So I've already put a knot in my thread, gone through the underside of the blue jeans and pulled it out. So I'm going to start right here on the corner. And my first stitch is I'm going to go over about 1/4 of an inch and stitch through the blue jean, and then come up to the edge of the fabric and then loop that piece of thread behind the needle. Move that out of the way a little bit, go about 1/4 of an inch over and down. And wherever you put that needle out, that's where the thread is going to loop it's going to loop underneath the needle. Pull that up. I'm using 3 strands of embroidery floss. Again, 1/4 over, 1/4 down ish. You can mark your finger or something like that to get the exact measurement. I'm not worried about an exact measurement, but that's the little blanket stitch, and that's what I'm going to do all the way around the edge of this piece of fabric. So to turn the corner, I'm going to make sure that I'm about 1/4 of an inch away. I'm going to go ahead and do that same stitch, or maybe split that difference. Pull that around to the top. I'm going to go back into the same hole on the corner, and then come up into the very corner of the little piece of fabric. Got some threads there. Loop that embroidery thread underneath, and then one more time go back into that same hole, and do the same thing. And so that gets us around our corner. Let me turn that, and a 1/4 and a 1/4 all the way around. And whenever I get ready to tie off, I'm going to go ahead and put my needle through the blue jeans and to the underside and tie it off on the underside. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and tie off. So I'm at this corner right here. I'm going to go ahead and go over the top of that little corner piece and pull my thread through, and that still creates that little edge right there. I'm going to flip my blue jeans over so you can see. My pocket is out of the way. There's all my stitches on the bottom side. And then I'm going to move in just a little bit into the blue jean. Do 2 stitches and do my little figure 8 tie off. Okay, this is where I left off. So I'm going to put my needle back in to this corner on the bottom side of that little corner, and we're just going to continue on. I've got a knot through there. This is a new piece of floss, and so you can see how to just keep going. Where do I start back? That's where you start back. You go back into where you left off at. Now I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around, but you don't have to watch all of that. Almost finished with this block. I started on the corner and I'm going to end on the corner. There's my first stitch just right there. So I've got this stitch. Here's my last, well, almost the last stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off this, loop that behind. That gets that one. Now I'm going to go into the corner, back in the same hole. Bring that up so I can make a corner. And I'm going to do one little thing right here because I want this to keep a corner. So I'm going to put a stitch through right there. Same thing. And then this is where I stopped. This was the first stitch. And there's a little piece that's right there, but it doesn't show. So I'm going to do one more. Come through here. And then go down. So whoops, let me see, where am I at? I'm going down right beside. There's my corner piece right there. I'm going to go into, okay. There's my corner right there. I'm going to put my needle on the other side of that thread, go in and go to the back side and then tie it off. And that finishes off that little corner. So this is how that block turned out with the little blanket stitch on it. Now I've got the piece of lace. It's the next piece that goes on here, and it has a right and a wrong side. The right side has a little bumpy texture. The wrong side is really smooth. So I want that little bumpy texture. I looked at my cell phone to see how I had it lined up because I photographed this so I wouldn't forget what I was doing once I took the layers off. So I'm going to pin this in place. And then I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch it about like the way I did this. Took this little piece of embroidery to the sewing machine and stitched on some rickrack just with a zigzag stitch on the top of it. I'm just going to hand whip this down. I've got it in the place where I want it to go. I think it's pretty much in the place I want it to go. Yeah. And I did this one with the rickrack on the top of it. I really like the subtleness of the rickrack on the back side, so I may take this off and restitch this. But I'm just going to hand stitch this, just a little whip stitch down on this. I'm not going to take this back to the sewing machine. For this little strip, I just want to do a messy stitch. So just kind of back and forth. Maybe an X stitch here or there. I'm fixing to do an X stitch. I've got the cardstock back in here, so I'm just going to do a little crossover right here. And then I'm take this long, let me just kind of pick this right here so you can see. And it doesn't matter to me whether it crosses perfectly in the middle or at the edge. And then just, they're not straight and they're not the same length. And I don't want them to be. I'm going to bring this stitch over kind of wide and this one back almost to where this one started, but a little low. And so you kind of get the idea. I don't want them puckered, but I just want them random. We'll put this one up kind of close to the edge of the fabric. Bring it back over here, long. All right, I'll just keep doing that to the end, then I'll show you what it looks like. I'm finished with that leg, and now I'm going to start on this side and just kind of repeat the process with the layering and the stitching. This is called a herringbone stitch that I'm fixing to show you. And so I had already worked this. The camera was turned off. I hate when that happens. I thought I was recording. So we're going to pretend like this place right here where I'm bringing this thread out, that's going to be, would be the equivalent of your starting stitch. Ignore that. All right. So you're going to come up to the at a diagonal at the top of the fabric or into your next block if you're doing a crazy quilt. This is a crazy quilt stitch called a herringbone. I don't know if I said that. Do about 1/8 of an inch stitch. Bring this over the top and then come underneath that stitch with your needle, and it's going to make a little twist. Then you're going to do the same thing at the bottom, coming at a diagonal, maybe about, I'm looking about 1/2 inch apart or something like that. Take up about 1/8 of an inch stitch. You don't have to measure it, where it's like that. And then you're going to run that thread, that needle, back underneath that stitch, and it's going to make a little twist when you pull it over. So that's what it would look like there. All right. So we're going to do it again a couple of more times. Diagonal, little 1/8 of an inch stitch about. Pull that up and see that little twist that it makes right there. And go underneath. And you'll go underneath both of those threads if you got them like at that angle. And I just unthreaded my needle. So let me thread that back real quick. All right. So we've got that little twist there. We're going to do it at a diagonal again, about 1/2 inch away, or however close you want to get. 1/8 of an inch in. Go underneath that thread with your needle and pull that through and up. At the top of the fabric, about 1/8 of an inch at a diagonal. Then we're going to go underneath the thread with the needle, underneath that stitch, and then we're just going to keep going that all the way across. And on this one, I'm fixing to go through and tie off. And so I'm just going to go ahead and just move this to the back and tie off on the bottom side of the blue jeans and then pick it up again. This is so much fun. I have not embroidered since the 80s, I think. I have this vintage trim. Oh, I don't know how vintage it is. It's a garage sale trim. Let me just do that. So I was going to put it at the end of this, and then I decided, well, I'll show you how I'm doing this. So I've got the full 6 strands of embroidery floss, and I came up from the bottom. And let me see if I'm close enough in the screen so that you can see. So I'm going to put the needle, twist 1, 2, 3 wraps, and then go right back down in the center of that. It's over just a tiny little bit, and then I'm going to scoot up to the next little flower. Make sure I keep this thread firm, not too tight, because I need to be able to get my needle through there. Let me go back from this side so you can see. And I want to hold on top of it so that I don't wind up with a knot, okay? So I'm just going to hold that to make sure that thread loops through good. And then there I have this sweet little middle to the little flower in the middle of that little trim. All right, so one more time, the thread is up and I'm on this side. I'm going to go into this side. So 1, 2, 3 laps around into that other little piece right there. I've got that piece of cardstock underneath here that's supporting this. Poke this needle over into the other flower. Pull through. Sorry about my hands being in the way. Get that pin out of the way. Pull that through, and I'm going to hold on to this thread so that it doesn't slip back and it doesn't make a knot, other than the knot that I want. And then this last one, and I'm going to do one on the back side also. 1, 2, 3. 1, I slipped off 3. And then go down. And then I'm just going to go to the completely to the back side of this denim. So I'm going to hold this little. Let me hear, where am I at? There I am. I've got a hold of the needle and I'm going to pull through to the back side. There it goes. And I'm watching this to make sure it doesn't kick a knot on me. And then I'll tie it off on the back side. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a little thumbs up and subscribe, and hop over to my whole closet and subscribe over there, get on my free printables. I have cut the hem off to finish this up, and I've got a little straight pin, corsage pin, and I am going to fray the edges of these pants, because I don't want just like got all this raggedy cool stuff going on up here, and I don't want a clean hem. So I'm going to fray this. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I will see you next time. Bye.